What's up guys, this is Isaac and this is the unboxing of the Gallagher mod. So I'm really excited to talk about everything about this kendama, from the design to the shape and how we designed this kendama. I will certainly play this kendama at the end of the video and go through some reasons why it's one of my favorites right now. So the Gallaghers and I started talking last year in January, and they were announced for KWC, but we had been planning that announcement for a few months prior, which includes designing this kendama. We wanted to give us a ton of time to be able to design exactly what we were both looking for. You know, I wanted a kendama that represents a lotus and really progresses from our neck shape. And obviously I wanted to make sure that the Gallaghers and their ideas for design and their ideas for a shape were represented. And this is the final project that I'm extremely happy with. This dropped on KWC 2024. There was, I think, 50 of them, and they sold out at KWC that weekend. After that drop, we did one small thing to the shape, to the spike. We were gonna release the updated design at NACO, but we had a few other things that needed to come out. So we pushed this back to Battle, which was now a few weeks ago, and dropped this with the Maharu Pro mod and the Champ mod. So I'll talk about the design before I talk about the shape. I designed this kendama. I think I had a good idea of what the Gallaghers wanted. I tend to design things that aren't super abstract, that have a lot of lines and patterns in them. As you can see, there's the middle stripe with Gallagher that goes around the center. There's the gold stripe by the bevel for tracking, and then there's a Gallagher symbol up top that helps with tracking. And then I had this cool pattern that I found that I put a gradient on, so it goes from very clear near the middle and then it disappears when it gets up top. We also put no design, so just natty around the bevel. I think that's really ideal for honing in stalls. There's no like designs or color that's going to get in the way of honing in this bevel. So I wanted to try something pretty new with this tama, which is these 6 grip lines. I actually had a picture of Zach holding the tama, and I put the grip lines where his fingers were. I also noticed that that's where Nick, and that's where I hold the tama too when I want to spin it. So these 6 lines are all 1 millimeter, and they're 1 millimeter apart. And I just kind of figured that I think in every ball sport, their ball has grip lines, like basketball, baseball, volleyball. You'll be able to feel the ball. If it's all clear, you can't really feel where it is. And I'm a big basketball player, so I definitely notice, you know, when I shoot that the lines are in the right area, so when I shoot it, it rotates backwards. So I really wanted to try it out with this kendama, and this was perfect because the Gallaghers also were really down with that too. So I put the grip lines in the ideal spot of where it's the most useful for not only spinning, but also, let's say, stilt, right? So instead of just kind of putting your finger anywhere, you can really notice where the finger goes, if it's on the 3 lines or if it's on the one down here or the one up here. And it just adds a lot of information that you get when doing any sort of tama trick, which will improve consistency of execution and consistency of form. And I think that really plays a part into the Gallagher style, which is extremely consistent. They've worked really hard to be the players that they are today. Yeah, I think these 6 grip lines are really awesome, and I think it really helps play whether you're conscious of it or not. So if you have a Gallagher mod now, or you're looking to buy one, because we still have some in stock, just kind of notice how the grip lines affect your play, if you notice them at all. And actually, yeah, I would recommend to start noticing them. So notice where you hold the tama, you know, what lines you're touching when you do a stilt or a lunar or a lighthouse, or when you're juggling, if you feel the lines. Because again, that's really good information for your brain to make sure that each attempt at a trick is totally consistent. The bevel is standard 23.5 millimeters, and the tama is beach. I really wanted to make this kendama stall heavy. because of how great the Gallaghers are at stalls. So that's why we did a beach tama and a maple ken, which again is pretty standard, but I think it plays the best. All right, we'll get to the design of the ken, and then we'll talk about the standard shape, which is what this shape is called. So the ken just looks really cool when you look at it because of all these lines. I guess to start, we have the Gallagher logo here, and then the Lotus logo here in gold. Yeah, we really played with this black and gold theme. That's kind of their color, and I just think it looks really, really cool. So like the tama, I added a lot of grip lines to the ken. This was my idea, and then I sent it to them, and they really liked it as well. You don't feel these as much as you do with the tama, which I think is okay, because you don't want these to get in the way at all. But we have the 6 lines up here, which are separated 3 by 3. We have 3 lines here above the ring stall, and then we have 2 lines coming down between the ring and the handle. That's perfectly in line with the big cup. And ideally, they're in line with the grain because you want to be playing and tapping and flipping with the grain pointed. I guess that would be parallel with your eyesight versus perpendicular. You don't want a serrato that's like, oh, this serrato's really tight, but the other way because it's going to throw everything off. We also added a gold line down the middle. So again, the purpose of these lines are for grip, to get a better sense of where the ken is when you're doing a trick. These will mostly help with juggles and tosses and swaps because that's when you're going to be throwing the ken. And then the gold line there is to just make sure that the ken is straight. I really, really like this gold line. You kind of have to be intentional about noticing it at first, but if you're able to juggle or do like late ken flips or even taps, you'll be able to pick up on that gold line really easily, and that's going to help you straighten out your ken, which again is really ideal for top level play. All the professional players, the best players in the world, keep an extremely straight ken, whether that's the Gallaghers, Yasu, Takia, Ryoga. It's very rarely like wobbly, and something that I mention a lot in my form tutorials is ken straightness. So this gold line should really help with that. The top 6 lines go about where your pointer finger wants to go. Of course, it might not be perfect every time, but at least it will give you information of where your top finger is when you're flipping. And you know, when we do any kind of ken flip or juggle, the flip is different every time because your hand positioning and your torque is a little bit different. But I think with these lines added in, it gives your brain some more, again, information about where the ken is going, how it's flipping, how much torque you put in, because you have a better idea of where your fingers are. Because you know, when you flip it down here, it's going to flip a lot different than if you flip it up here. And these lines are going to help you understand that and realize that while you're in the middle of a trick. So I think that if you don't want to play with these lines, you don't have to. They're not like in the way enough for it to be super in your face, but they are there enough to really take advantage of them if you want to. And especially this gold line, you can just not notice it if you wanted to, or you can really pay attention to that gold line to make sure that everything is straight. And I think overall it just really helps play and kendama form, which again just makes me think of the Gallaghers because they really invented a lot of the fundamentals that we all use today, even the top players, when it comes to tama control and ken control. If you watch their old clips in 2017, 2018, the techniques that they're using, no one else was using, and now it seems like everybody uses today. It's like the standard of play, again, using the standard pun. Yeah, and I instead of doing like 3 lines right down the middle here, I did 2 of them. So I think that gives more information. It kind of widens these out so you can really get to know where your thumb is, if it's touching on this one or a little bit of both. If it's in the middle, then you get to feel a little bit of the both sets of lines, which is really cool. And then of course we did it on the other side too. So if you're gonna toss the inward lunar, it really helps, and you can feel it a little bit with your middle finger. Okay, enough with the design. Let's talk about the shape. The Gallaghers and I worked really hard on designing a perfect shape for them. The Tama wasn't too hard because I feel like we have a really good set of dimensions when it comes to the bevel and the inner hole and the size of the Tama. It's all pretty standard, but we don't want to change something that's like not broken. And Lotus Kendamas Tamas are all pretty similar and they all work really well. But they can, obviously, you can change a little bit and it plays a lot different. And so I think the goal for making a Ken for the Gallaghers was to make something that obviously was extremely playable, all around play, lunars and slingers. But we really wanted to focus on stalls, on stilts. You can't make a Gallagher mod without having a kendama that's extremely good at stilts. So they looked at the dimensions from the Element, the Mars, and the Mala, which were our three most recent shapes at the time, and they took what they liked from all three, and then I gave a little bit input to make sure everything balanced, and it ended up being an extremely good shape. Again, one of my favorite shapes in our Lotus arsenal right now. Yeah, we didn't do anything super unique, super abstract, because with really abstract shapes, you get, I think it kind of unbalances the level of play. Like if you have a really tall Ken, it's going to feel really good for juggles, but you're going to lose like lunars, you're going to lose some other things, maybe some quickness or speed of play. So we wanted to keep it just like a really classical standard shape, but just with some major highlights that I think everyone will notice when they start playing this kendama. So we'll start from the bottom up. This handle is like the Element, but it's a bit sharper. It's not as sharp as the Bloom shape if you played the Bloom shape, but it's certainly sharper than the Element shape, which adds a lot of grip when you want to do Ken flips. It also adds a lot of honeness in handle stalls. One of my favorite things about this kendama is the swoop, the space between the handle and the ring. It just feels really right. It doesn't feel, not swooped enough or too swooped in. It really grips your thumb well, and it makes your hand feel very comfortable holding this kendama, getting ready for a Ken flip or any kind of juggling trick. And that also includes the space between the ring and the center line here. I think it's very consistent with the swoop that we have here. It's not like these two things are vastly different, but it just molds together really well around the ring. The ring, of course, is inspired by a lot of the Lotus Kendamas. I really don't love sharp rings, not to say that I'm not going to do that in the future, but I feel like sharp, thick rings get in the way of juggles and Ken flips. And of course, it's a preference thing. I think if I were to play a really sharp ring, I would get used to it and it'd be fine. But I've, the last few years, been really enjoying in our shapes having a ring that is not huge and it's not wide, but it's there enough for grip. But yeah, it definitely doesn't get in the way for Ken flips, and it just seems to release out of your hand a lot easier than a ring that is really sharp and in the way. All to say, the ring is a little bit more protruding than the Element ring. The Element ring is really like non-existent. This is sharper, so it's going to help a little bit with ring stalls if you're doing ring stalls. But I think it still falls into line of that Lotus feel of something that just really flies out of your hand when you want to do like a triplet Ken flip, or you want to do multiple juggles or 3-turn juggles. It's just really easy to catch and then get rid of in a quick manner. And again, coming up to the spike, it's a longer spike than the Element. I think it's pretty similar to the Mala, the Mars, the Bloom. We increased our spike a bit from the Element, but I still really like shorter spikes. I think shorter spikes really increases tap ability. It balances out the center line to the center of gravity, and it just really helps with flipping this thing in the air when the serrato is a bit higher. You get a lot more grip to hold it, and it just seems like it flips much more balanced than if the cups were down low. There wasn't a huge change between the Gallagher shape, the standard shape that we dropped at KWC. We just shortened the spike by a tiny bit. We found that the serrato was getting down there a little bit too low. So we wanted to do a very small change to balance that out, which I think we successfully did because this flips and taps extremely well. And before I get into how it plays, to talk about the Serato a little bit, the Serato is kind of where the stilts and the stalls lie. We wanted to make sure that the Serato was going to be extremely fluent for stalls and stilts, like I said earlier. We increased the Serato size a bit to give more space so the Tama can really live on that ridge. And then with this bevel size paired up, it really sticks on stalls extremely well. It's, in my opinion, the best stilt kendama that we have. Once you beat in that bevel and you give it a lick, I am hitting stilts like I've never hit before on any other kendama. It just seems to fall right into place when you pull up, and when you throw like a trip stilt flip, it just feels really easy to catch. It feels like it recovers if you don't have a perfect stilt flip like my stilt flips. I can like really recover and catch these in any way, and it just falls right back into the stilt position, which is really nice. The big cup and the small cup aren't too different. They are very similar in size, although there is like a tiny bit of difference. So that just allows the stilt to be as consistent as the inward stilt. With the widening of the Serato on the Gallagher mod, it fits your finger in here really well for slings. So I noticed that it's much I noticed that slings are really easy to grasp on this kendama, coming from a different kendama, coming from the other Lotus Kendamas, but certainly other kendamas out there. It's going to sling really well because of the ridge here, the space for your finger to hook in there. But we still have a really good balance between the Serato and the sword, and we have a massive base cup hole, which just confirms that lunars are going to slap. And there's always that balance between the slingers and the lunars, and I feel like we played that balance really well. But when we play through later, I'll give another like update about how the lunars and how the slingers are feeling. Yeah, I think altogether this plays like just kind of like a progressed and advanced Lotus shape. It is very Lotus-y. It's not super unique or super different than what we've been doing, but I think you'll feel that it just feels very comfortable in your hand from the get-go. Once the bevel is broken in, it stalls extremely well. And the last thing I want to mention is taps, because taps are always a little bit of a gray area. You don't really know what you're going to get because of how intricate a trick it is. But Casey Henson just hit up Nick and said this is the best tapping kendama he's ever played, which is awesome to hear. I feel the same way. I think the balance that we struck in this kendama yields insane tap results. Like, oh my God, it just, once you get used to it, once you tap a little bit for like 10 or 20 minutes, you'll notice that it just will float, especially if you're tapping how you should be tapping, which is kind of down here instead of up here. You'll notice that if you get a really good pace, the kendama will just stay up. It won't go down, and it will just stay up and float higher and higher. And that's how you'll be able to hit personal tap records or whatever you're going for. But yeah, I'm really happy that the taps turned out really good on this. Obviously, if they didn't, we probably wouldn't release it because tapping is super important to kendama play and especially important to how we build our shapes nowadays. But yeah, I think with the taps and the flips and the grip, it's going to play more of a new gen style of play, certainly. With these Serato dimensions and this deep ridge and the space that you have and the length of the Serato, it's going to hit those fundamental tricks, stalls, really, really well. I'm really happy to say that these are mostly all weight matched. We had a few that weren't weight matched that we decreased the price minus $10, but the majority of the mods that we're dropping are weight matched within 5 grams, and the weights are really good. There's a sticker on every box that says what the range is. So I've seen a lot of 80, 82, 79. So that means that the Ken and the Tama are within a 5 gram range of that number. So if it's an 80 gram weight match, then you might get a Ken that's 80 and 80, but you also might get a Ken that's like 78, 83, 78, 82, typically with the Tama being heavier. Of course, those vary, so I can't guarantee you the specific weight that you get, but I think that is a close enough range that most players will be really happy. And I'm certainly happy with these weights. I tend to like something a little bit lighter, but I think hitting that 80 gram range, no one can really complain. I'm sure people out there could complain because they want heavier or lighter, but that kind of hits like 80% of kendama play in that 80 gram range, which is what these end up weighing at. And of course, with the kendama, you get it comes in a really cool Gallagher box. It comes with a Gallagher sticker, a Lotus sticker, an extra string pack, of course. The string that we use and that we've been using on almost all of our mods is Lovely Knot string, which is, in my opinion, a lot better than the standard factory string. So all these are strung up on Lovely Knot strings, so you can play them right at the box. The string length is, I think, about 10. It's 70 centimeters, so I think about 10 fingers, depending on how big your fingers are, like 8 to 12 fingers. Yeah, I really, really love this kendama. I think overall, you know, we hit these technical aspects. We like check them off the box, but there's always this question of like, how just does it play in general? When you take it out, like, do you like the feeling or do you not like the feeling? That's very, like, kind of an emotional thing that people go through when they take out kendama. And this kendama, I think, players can be really, really happy with when they take this out of the box. I think it's going to feel right immediately after you start playing. And as you play more and you hone in that bevel, it's just going to get better and better, especially when it comes to stalls and overall play. You know, we really wanted to make a kendama that players would be really happy with and that they would progress hard with. You know, it's like the best message that I get, that like, oh, with this kendama, this helped me learn X whatever trick. And I've been getting a lot of messages like that for this kendama, which is really, really nice. And then there's a few players that immediately at battle came up to me and asked, and they wanted to buy Gallagher because they were lucky enough to get it at the KWC drop. And they needed another one because of how much they liked it. So that's all for the design and the shape and how we made this. Thanks to Nick and Zach for creating this with me. It was so much fun to create a shape with you know, what you guys think about kendama and, you know, the way that you guys like to play. So let's go and play this a little bit, and I'll give you some more notes as I play about how this shape and this setup plays. All right, here's the Gallagher mod I've been playing with. It's the same one that I was using for the video. And yeah, for stilts and stalls, there's not another kendama that I have that I'd rather use. It's just stalls so well. I've been practicing some like backflip stuff, and like, of course the bevel's like pretty beat in, and I lick it and everything, but like the dimensions that we have for the Serato, and I think just the overall balance and weight of this kendama is just really good. But I also like it a lot for the flips. Like that, the trip jug spike to spike just feels so good. I think the spike length and the length of the Ken, it's not an oversized kendama. It's not like especially tall, you know, but I think just how it all balances out, it just feels really, really good for flips. Oh, need to warm up a little bit. Yeah, super nice. Oh, hit some stalls. And especially for like, you know, working on consistency and form, it's my go-to because of the lines that I can feel and I can see. Whether it's like, you know, pulling up the stilt and seeing where my fingers lie, you know, like trying to put my thumb up here or on the bottom line, or like where my pointer finger goes over here, and just seeing how that helps the success of a like trip stilt flip or whatever. Oh, Yeah, I don't know if you can just tell, but the stalls are just really locking in. Very Gallagher-esque. And yeah, I kind of need to hit a trip still flip now, right? There we go. Yeah, I don't know. I just can really rely on this landing. Like, yeah, for 28, I just hit around stall with a trip jug in between. I use this kendama for that. I've been going for trip and more stilt. Backflip, which I've been grinding. I don't know why I'm going to try to hit that right now. But maybe just a single backflip. Yeah. And then, of course, you know, regular flips and taps after I spike this trick. Okay. Oh my God, what is wrong? All right, let's go. Boom. Okay. Yeah, and then we can get into, yeah, lunars. It definitely feels more lunar heavy than anything else. Tom is a bit slippery, so I kind of have to like, I feel like with anti-skid clear, sometimes you got to clean it off a little bit for it to get its grip back. I mean, it's like not terrible, but oh, yeah. And I think just because of the length of where the serrato sits, like although it's serrato heavy, your finger just really slides in there, like I was saying, and playing with it. Yeah, it is serrato heavy, so it's not a natural slinger. Like, you know, you could just take a really heavy sword and put a really light serrato on there, and then you'll be able to sling forever. But then you can't lunar, you know? So I think we struck a good balance of being able to like if I can like dub late sling on a kendama, that typically means the slingers are good enough to hit a trick, which I definitely can with this once I get the hang of it. Oh. Yeah. And lunars, I think it's, yeah, lunar focus, like, feels really good for lunars. Yeah, and then we can tap. So let me just see how I feel tapping a little bit. Yeah, I think that the balance, it taps a little bit differently than other kendamas. But it's this weird thing because once you get that technique down of like waiting a little bit, it really floats. I don't know, you can kind of see how it just kind of stays in the air with a little bit of a slower speed. Really nice. Yeah, there's a reason that Casey said that. Yeah, it's really good. See the 6-tap. Oh. Okay, nice. My favorite thing to do with this kendama is just like juggle. I love the way my thumb fits between the ring and the handle, the swoop. It just launches off so nicely. Catches really nicely. I don't know. Yeah, it just feels longer. It's not that much longer than the Element. Okay, it's maybe like a millimeter or two longer, but considering the size of the cups and the spike and the handle and where the ring is, it just feels like it really fits in the hand and you get a lot of space in that handle area, or not the handle area, but like this area, kind of like the handle. Yeah, let's hit some more tricks. Yeah, I was also hitting some like taps to stalls, like a 3-tap to a stall line. Some big taps. Tama control is not super honed right now, but let's try to hit a 3-tap jug bird. Yeah, that's really nice. All right, 3 jug in. Nice. Back to bird. No. Yeah, I really like this kendama for practicing those fundamental stalls like I've been doing. Just really getting a hang of like, you know, tossing back to still, something that I'm trying to progress at, that I've never really been super good at. Because again, like you can really feel these grip lines in the tama. So when you spin, it just makes it like really clear where the bevel is. Your fingers and how it feels like adds to that tama control. And if you don't have grip lines like that, you just don't know. You know, you don't have that information from your fingers, from the feeling. I'm certainly going to be using this kendama for more 28 for more tricks this month. So you definitely see it on my Instagram feed. I think I've done 2 tricks with this so far. Want to hit some like pretty complex stall lines, some stilt level ups, you know, like a trip stilt backflip is a goal of mine. And I think this is the kendama that can help me do it. But yeah. Oh, I think that was 4. Let's go. See, like, I don't know. The flips just kind of connect with this kendama. And the stalls really connect. Like, that's crazy. Plays really, really well out of the box. It's just really fun to play. See the handle stall? That's nice. I haven't done a handle stall in a long time. Oh, geez. All right. Is there a little around handle stall? Yeah. And we can freestyle a little bit. It's freezing outside. I'd love to play outside right now, but it's like 30 degrees. It's just the worst. So I have to resort to being inside. Yeah, I'm sure late Kens too. I should probably practice those more. But with like the ring stall, this feels really good. Maybe we can do a Ken jug, Ken. Oh, so close. Yeah, I don't know. Yikes, that is really loud. I kind of want to do more like trip jugs with late Ken, kind of Yasu style. Those look really cool. I feel like my trip Ken jugs are proficient enough where I can throw in a late Ken, you know. Let's try to hit that real quick. There we go. Oh my gosh. Okay. All right, guys. Hopefully this playthrough helped. Yeah, definitely check my feed for more tricks with this kendama. If you end up getting one, let me know what you think. They are live on the website right now. A lot of them are weight matched, which is really nice. And yeah.